Welcome to the Soul Mafia Love Stories. The channel will bring you stories of strong bonds, cultural differences, passionate love, and unforgettable dramatic events. If you love interracial love stories and cinematic storytelling, then this is the place for you. Enjoy listening. Please subscribe to the channel to hear more great stories. I remember the exact moment the world went silent, even though the wind was howling like it wanted to tear the city apart. Snow hammered down in thick, blinding sheets, turning the parking lot behind the pharmacy into a white void. My shift had just ended. My fingers were still stiff from counting pills and cash for 8 straight hours, and all I wanted was to get home, heat up leftover soup, and check if my brother had eaten something that was not instant noodles. Instead, I saw him leaning against my car like a stain that would not wash off. Marcus. He pushed himself off the hood when he saw me, that crooked grin already stretching across his face. I froze. My breath came out in sharp clouds, and for a second, I thought about turning back inside. But the store was closing. The lights behind me clicked off one by one. I was alone. "You owe me," he said, stepping closer, his boots crunching through the snow. His voice was low, but it carried. It always did. "Do not act like you forgot." "I do not owe you anything," I shot back, though my voice trembled. I hated that he could still do that to me, make my chest tighten like I was back in that apartment, counting his debts instead of my own dreams. He laughed, sharp and ugly. Then his hand came out of nowhere, grabbing my jaw, squeezing hard enough to make my teeth grind together. Pain shot up my face. "You think you are better than me now? Working nights, acting clean?" His fingers dug deeper. "That money had your name on it." Snow clung to his jacket. Melted. Refroze. Everything about him felt cold and rotten. I tried to pull away. He tightened his grip. My heart slammed against my ribs. No one was coming. No one ever came. Then headlights cut through the storm. A black sedan rolled in slow, deliberate, like it had all the time in the world. It stopped a few feet away. The engine did not shut off. The door opened. At first, I only saw the coat. Long black. Perfectly still despite the wind. Then the man stepped out, closing the door with a soft click that somehow sounded louder than the storm. He did not rush. He did not shout. He simply walked toward us, each step measured, as if he already knew how this would end. Marcus turned, annoyed. "This does not concern you," he snapped. The man did not answer. Instead, he stopped just within arm's reach. Slowly, he pulled off his leather gloves. One finger at a time. The movement was calm, almost careful. I remember thinking how strange that was. Who takes off gloves in this kind of cold? Then everything happened at once. A sharp crack split the air. Marcus screamed. His hand released my face as his wrist bent at an angle it was never meant to. He dropped to his knees, cursing, choking on the pain. The man did not even look down at him. He looked at me. His eyes were dark. Steady. Not kind. Not cruel. Just certain. "Go home," he said quietly. And for the first time that night, I realized something far more terrifying than Marcus. This man had not saved me. He had chosen to intervene. I did not sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the pipes hiss and the radiator clank like it was trying to shake something loose inside me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it again. The way his hand moved. The sound. That clean, brutal crack that cut through the storm like it meant something. Like it was deliberate. Not rage. Not panic. Precision. I kept telling myself I should feel safe. Marcus would not be back, not after that. But safety was not what I felt. I felt watched. I felt chosen. The next morning, I checked my phone expecting missed calls, threats, something from Marcus. There was nothing. No messages. No unknown numbers. No noise at all. It was as if he had been erased. I should have felt relieved. Instead, a slow unease crept under my skin. Marcus did not disappear. He clung. He begged. He blamed. Silence was not his style. I pushed it aside. I had bills to pay, shifts to cover, and a brother who needed tuition money more than I needed answers. By the time I got to the pharmacy that night, the storm had cleared, but the city still looked frozen in place, like everything was holding its breath. I clocked in, tied my hair back, and forced myself into routine. Count pills. Scan labels. Smile when required. Ignore the weight pressing on the back of my neck. Around midnight, Mrs. Alvarez came in for her blood pressure refill. She always talked too much, always asked about my brother, always complained about the cold. Tonight, she stopped mid-sentence, squinting at me. "You look tired, honey. Everything okay?" I nodded too quickly. Just a long week. She did not believe me, but she let it go. People usually do. They see what they expect to see. A tired girl. A night shift worker. Nothing more. But someone else was watching. I noticed it when I stepped outside for a quick break. Across the street, a black SUV sat parked under a broken streetlight. The engine was running. Windows tinted too dark to see inside. It was not there yesterday. Or maybe it was, and I had not been looking. My stomach tightened. I told myself it was nothing. Delivery driver. Security. Anything normal. Still, I crushed my cigarette halfway through and went back inside. At 3 a.m, my manager called me into the office. His face was pale, confused, like he had just read something he did not understand. He held up a sheet of paper. "Naomi, did you pay this?" I frowned. "Pay what?" He turned the paper toward me. My name sat at the top. Under it, a list of charges. Loans. Collections. Numbers that made my chest tighten. I knew those numbers. I had memorized them through sleepless nights, trying to figure out how to survive something I never created. Marcus's debts. All of them. Stamped across the page in bold letters were 2 words. Paid in full. I felt the room tilt. "That is not possible." "That is what I said," he replied, scratching the back of his neck. "But it is cleared. Every single one. Someone wired the funds this morning." My ears rang. "Ooh," he shook his head. "Anonymous trust. No sender listed. Anonymous." My hand started to shake. I grabbed the edge of the desk to steady myself. This was not luck. This was not coincidence. This was him. The man in the snow. I finished my shift in a blur. Every sound felt too loud. Every movement too sharp. When I stepped outside at dawn, the city looked softer, almost innocent under the pale light. But I knew better now. I scanned the street without meaning to. The SUV was gone. Of course it was. When I got home, my brother was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop open, textbooks scattered around him. He looked up, smiling. "You are early." I forced a smile back. "Slow night." He pushed a mug toward me. "I made coffee. You look like you need it." I sat down, wrapping my hands around the warmth. For a moment, everything felt normal. Safe. Then he spoke again. "Hey, something weird happened." My grip tightened. "What?" "I got an email from the school this morning," he said, scrolling through his laptop. "They said my outstanding tuition balance was cleared. Like all of it. I thought it was a mistake." The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. "Did they say who paid it?" "No," he said, frowning. "Just some kind of financial aid adjustment. But it does not make sense. I did not apply for anything new." "Of course you did not." I stared at the table, at the faint scratches in the wood, trying to keep my breathing steady. He was not just cleaning up Marcus's mess. He was reaching into every part of my life. Quietly. Completely. "Naomi," my brother asked softly. "Do you know something?" I shook my head too fast. "No. It is probably just a system error. Do not worry about it." But I was already standing, already backing away. I could not let him see it. The fear. The realization settling in my chest like ice. This was not help. This was control. Later that afternoon, I stepped outside again, this time with purpose. The air was sharper, the snow beginning to melt into gray slush along the sidewalks. I walked 2 blocks without thinking, then stopped. The black sedan was there. Parked like it had been waiting. The door opened before I could decide whether to run. He stepped out just like the night before. Same coat. Same calm. No gloves this time. "I was wondering when you would come looking," he said. My heart pounded. "You paid my debts." A slight tilt of his head. Not denial. Not confirmation. Just acknowledgement. "You had no right," I snapped, anger rising to cover the fear. "You do not get to interfere in my life like that." His gaze did not waver. "It was necessary." "For who?" I demanded. "Me or you?" A pause. Just long enough to matter. "For both." I let out a shaky laugh. "I did not ask for your help." "No," he said quietly. "You did not." The way he said it made something twist in my chest. Like he had expected that answer. Like it changed nothing. I took a step back. "Stay away from me. From my family. Whatever this is, I do not want it." For the first time, something shifted in his expression. Not anger. Not hurt. Something colder. "That is not how this works," he said. My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" "It means," he continued, his voice steady as the falling snow had been, "you are already involved." I felt the world narrow around me. "In what?" He held my gaze, unblinking. in something you cannot walk away from. And in that moment, I understood the truth I had been trying to ignore since the parking lot. He did not save me. He placed me somewhere new, and I had no idea how deep it went. I should have listened to that instinct telling me to pull my brother out of the city, to disappear for a few days, to pretend none of this had touched us. But life does not pause just because something feels wrong. Bills still come. Classes still run. People still believe they are invisible until they are not. 2 nights later, everything snapped into place. My brother was late. That alone was enough to set my nerves on edge. He was predictable, almost painfully so. Classes, library, cheap dinner, home. Same route, same time. I called him once. Then twice. Straight to voicemail. By the 3rd call, my chest felt tight, like something was pressing down from the inside. I grabbed my coat and left without thinking. The streets near the industrial district were quieter than usual, the kind of silence that did not feel empty but watched. Snow from earlier in the week had turned into dirty slush, pushed into uneven piles along the sidewalks. The air smelled like metal and salt. I knew this area. Everyone did. Warehouses, cold storage, trucks moving at all hours, hauling things no one asked too many questions about. My phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. Come to Pier 17. Alone. My stomach dropped. No greeting. No explanation. Just an address and a command. I stared at the screen, my fingers going numb. This was not random. This was deliberate. I ran. By the time I reached the docks, my lungs burned and my legs felt like they might give out under me. The wind off the water cut straight through my coat, sharp and unforgiving. Shipping containers stacked high like walls, blocking out what little light there was. Somewhere in the distance, a metal door slammed, the sound echoing through the empty space. Hello. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. No answer. Then I saw him. My brother was on his knees near the edge of the pier, hands tied behind his back. A man stood behind him, one arm hooked casually around his neck like they were friends. Another leaned against a container, smoking, watching me with bored eyes. Their accents hit me before their words did. Russian. You came, the one holding my brother said, almost amused. Let him go, I said immediately, stepping forward. My heart was racing so fast I could feel it in my throat. He tightened his grip slightly. My brother winced. Not how this works. My mind scrambled. What do you want? The man by the container flicked his cigarette into the snow, crushing it under his boot. You were told to stay out of things that do not concern you. I do not even know what you are talking about. I snapped, though fear was starting to bleed into every word. A slow smile spread across his face. That is the problem. Before I could respond, headlights flared behind me. I did not need to turn to know who it was. The black sedan rolled into the dock like it owned the ground beneath it. It stopped a few yards away. The engine idled, low and steady. The door opened. Quan Taeshik stepped out. The air shifted. It was subtle, but it was there. The men in front of me straightened, their casual arrogance tightening into something sharper. Not fear exactly. Recognition. You should not have touched her, Taeshik said, his voice carrying easily over the wind. The man holding my brother laughed softly. You think this is about her? Taeshik did not answer. He walked closer, slow, controlled, like every step had already been calculated. Then enlighten me, he said. The smoker spoke this time. You move goods through this port like it belongs to you. It does not. You cross lines. We respond. And the boy? Taeshik asked, his gaze flicking briefly to my brother before returning to them. Collateral, the man behind him replied. Something cold settled in my chest. This was not about me. My brother had just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Taeshik stopped a few feet away. Release him. A beat of silence. Then the man tightened his arm again. Or what? For a second, nothing happened. Then everything did. Taeshik moved. I barely saw it. One moment he was standing still, the next he was inside their space, his hand snapping out with that same terrifying precision I remembered from the parking lot. The man holding my brother screamed as his arm twisted violently, forced open. My brother dropped to the ground, scrambling away. Gun! The smoker reached for it, but he was too slow. Taeshik struck first, a sharp blow to the throat that cut off whatever he was about to do. The sound was sickening, controlled, efficient. I could not breathe. It was not chaos. It was choreography. Every movement had purpose. Every strike ended something. The last man staggered back, clutching his arm, eyes wide with a mix of rage and disbelief. This is not over, he spat. Tashik did not chase him. He let him go. That scared me more than anything. My brother crawled toward me, shaking. I dropped to my knees, pulling him into me, checking his face, his hands, making sure he was real, that he was still here. Are you okay? Are you hurt? I am fine, he said, though his voice trembled. I am fine. I looked up. Tashik was already walking back toward his car. Wait, I called out, scrambling to my feet. You knew this could happen. He stopped. Slowly, he turned. I warned you, he said. That is not the same thing. I shot back, anger breaking through the fear. You let this happen. His expression did not change. No. Then why were you here so fast? I demanded. Why did they have him? This is your war, not mine. A pause. Then, quietly, you were never outside it. The words hit harder than anything else that night. I shook my head. I did not choose this. No, he agreed. But you are in it. My hands curled into fists. I want out. For the first time, there was something almost human in his gaze. Not softness. Not quite. But something that acknowledged the weight of what I was saying. That is not possible anymore, he said. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of salt and steel across the dock. Behind me, my brother shifted, still trying to process what had just happened. In front of me, the man who had saved us twice now stood like a wall I could not move, a door I could not close. You do not get to decide that, I said, my voice low. His answer was immediate. It has already been decided. And as he turned away again, disappearing into the black sedan like he had the first night, I felt it settle in my bones. This was never about one broken wrist in the snow. It was a war. And somehow, without ever agreeing to it, I had become part of the battlefield. I did not go home after that night at the docks. I could not. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my brother on his knees, a stranger's arm around his throat like his life was something disposable. I sat in the dark kitchen instead, watching the first gray light of morning creep through the window, feeling something inside me shift. Fear was still there, sharp and alive, but it was no longer in control. Something colder had taken its place. By the time my brother woke up, I had already made my decision. You are staying inside today, I told him, sliding a plate of food in front of him. He frowned. Naomi, I have classes. You are staying inside, I repeated, my voice leaving no room for argument. Lock the door. Do not answer it for anyone. Not even me unless I call first. He studied me for a long second, then nodded slowly. He had seen enough last night to understand this was not negotiable. Where are you going? I grabbed my coat. To get answers. The city felt different in daylight. Less threatening on the surface, but underneath I could still feel it. That same tension. That same sense of something moving just out of sight. I walked straight to where I knew I would find him. The warehouse district. Cold storage buildings stretched across the blocks like silent giants, their metal walls reflecting the pale winter sun. Trucks idled in loading bays. Men moved crates without speaking, their eyes trained to look past anything that did not concern them. This was his world. Controlled. Quiet. Efficient. And I was done being kept outside of it. I spotted the black sedan near the far end of the lot. Of course. I walked straight toward it, ignoring the way a few workers glanced at me, then quickly looked away. The door opened before I could reach it. Quan Tashik stepped out. You should not be here, he said. I stopped a few feet away, meeting his gaze head-on. You do not get to decide that for me anymore. Something flickered in his eyes. Interest. Maybe. This place is not safe, he replied. I let out a short, humorless laugh. Neither is my life, apparently. And that is your fault. Silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. You let them take my brother, I continued, my voice steady despite the anger burning under it. You knew something like that could happen. You said it yourself. I was already involved. I said you were in it, he corrected calmly. That is the same thing, I snapped. You pulled me into this without asking. You paid my debts. You watched me. You decided what was best for me like I am some kind of asset. His expression did not change, but something in the air shifted, like I had finally said the right words. You were a liability, he said. The bluntness of it hit harder than I expected. Excuse me? Your name was attached to money that moves through people who do not forget, he continued. That made you visible. That made you vulnerable. And your solution was to take control of my entire life. I shot back. Yes. The answer came without hesitation. I stared at him, something inside me snapping into place. You do not protect people. I said slowly. You contain them. For the first time, he did not respond immediately. That was all the confirmation I needed. Then let me be clear, I continued, stepping closer. I am not something you get to manage. I am not one of your operations. If I am in this, then I decide how I move. A faint narrowing of his eyes. Not anger. Calculation. You think you understand what this is, he said. I understand enough, I replied. There are two sides fighting over those warehouses. Korean and Russian. You move something through those containers that is worth killing for. My brother saw it. That is why they took him. He watched me carefully now. And you, I added, my voice dropping, you knew he could become a target. You just did not think it would happen that fast. A pause. Then, quietly, no, I let out a breath I did not realize I was holding. That is worse. The wind cut through the lot, carrying the distant hum of engines and the metallic clatter of loading docks. Everything around us kept moving like nothing had changed. But something had. I am done being kept in the dark, I said. If I am part of this, then I see everything. No more half-truths. No more decisions made for me. That is not how this works, he repeated. I stepped even closer, close enough now that I could see the faint scar along his jaw, the way his expression never fully shifted even when something clearly did. Then change how it works. A long silence followed. Then he turned slightly, gesturing toward the warehouse behind him. Come with me. I hesitated for half a second. Then I followed. Inside, the temperature dropped instantly. Cold air wrapped around me, sharp and biting. Rows of containers lined the space, each one sealed, labeled, controlled. Men moved with quiet efficiency, scanning, logging, transferring. No wasted motion. No unnecessary words. This is where it happens, he said. I looked around, taking it in. Food logistics, I said, though it sounded hollow even to me. On the surface, he replied. He walked to one of the containers, tapping the metal lightly. A worker stepped forward, unlocking it without question. The doors creaked open. Inside, neatly stacked crates. He pulled one down, opening it just enough for me to see. Not food. My stomach tightened. High value, he said simply. Unregistered. Untraceable. I swallowed hard. And the Russians want a piece. They want control, he corrected. I nodded slowly, forcing myself to keep looking, to not turn away. And where do I fit into this? He closed the crate, sealing it again. You were supposed to stay outside it. That is not an answer. He turned to face me fully now. Your name is clean, he said. Your records are clean. Your financial history is flexible. That makes you useful. The word landed exactly how I thought it would. Useful. Not protected. Not safe. Useful. I let out a slow breath, then nodded once. So that is it, I said. You paid my debts, cleared my brother's tuition, not to help me. To position me. He did not deny it. Something inside me settled. Not fear. Not anger. Clarity. Then here is what you are going to do, I said, my voice steady, colder than it had ever been. You stop making moves without me. You tell me what I am being used for. And from now on, I am not just in your war. I held his gaze, unflinching. I am playing in it. For a moment, the world seemed to still. Then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, Kwantashik nodded. And just like that, the balance shifted. I was no longer standing outside the storm. I had stepped directly into it. The room smelled like polished wood, cold metal, and quiet desperation. Bankruptcy auctions always did. People sat too straight, spoke too carefully, pretended they were not circling something already dead. I stood near the back, my coat still dusted with melting snow, watching men in expensive suits whisper over numbers that used to mean power. Now they meant survival. I was not supposed to be here. That was what they told me at the entrance. That my name was not on the list. That this room was not for people like me. I almost believed them. Almost. Then I saw the documents. My name had been removed. Not erased. Replaced. A shell company I had never heard of now stood where I should have been. Clean. Legal. Untouchable. I did not need to ask who was behind it. Of course he was still making moves without me. I felt the anger rise, sharp and immediate, but I forced it down. This was not the place to lose control. Not anymore. I stepped back, letting the noise of the room wash over me, listening instead of reacting. Numbers were called. Bids were placed. The warehouses, the routes, the infrastructure that everything else depended on, piece by piece, were being carved up. This was the war, and I was being pushed out of it. A man near the front raised his paddle. Another followed. The price climbed. Fast. Too fast. This was not competition. This was coordination. Someone had already decided how this would end. I turned to leave. If he wanted to keep me out, then fine. I would walk away. I would take my brother and disappear somewhere none of this could reach us. Miss Reed. The voice stopped me cold. I turned slowly. One of the auction officials stood beside me, holding a thin folder. This was left for you. I hesitated, then took it. Inside, a single document. A trust agreement. My name. I stared at it, the words blurring for a second before snapping back into focus. Beneficiary. Sole authority. Full transfer of assets listed below. Assets. I flipped the page. Every warehouse. Every route. Every contract being auctioned in that room. All of it. Already mine. The air shifted. A murmur spread through the crowd as the doors at the front of the room opened. Conversations faltered. Heads turned. I did not need to look. But I did anyway. Quan Tae-shik walked in like he belonged there, like the outcome had never been in question. The room adjusted around him, subtle but undeniable. People who had been speaking fell silent. Those who had been confident suddenly looked uncertain. He did not look at them. He looked at me. And for the first time, I understood. This was never about keeping me out. It was about placing me above it. The lead bidder stood, frustration cutting through his composure. What is the meaning of this? He demanded, gesturing toward the officials. The assets are being transferred outside of auction? The official cleared his throat, glancing down at his notes. The holdings in question have already been reassigned under a pre-existing trust. Legally binding. Under whose authority? The man snapped. Silence. Then Tae-shik spoke. Hers. Every eye in the room shifted to me. I felt it. The weight of it. The disbelief. The calculation. The sudden understanding that everything they had come here to fight over was no longer available. I stepped forward. Slow. Steady. No hesitation. The folder felt heavier in my hands now, like it meant something different than it had just moments ago. Not a gift. Not protection. Power. Behind me, the doors opened again. This time, the sound was louder. Boots. Voices. The sharp, unmistakable presence of law enforcement flooding into the room. Commands cut through the air. Hands were raised. Faces drained of color. The same men who had been bidding moments ago were now being pulled aside, their names called out in connection with charges they could not talk their way out of. Financial crimes. Fraud. Coercion. The debts they had tried to bury. The ones they had tried to pin on people like me. I watched as one of them turned, eyes wide with recognition, with anger, with something close to fear. Too late. I exhaled slowly, the tension in my chest finally breaking. Beside me, Tae-shik spoke, his voice low enough that only I could hear. It is done. I turned to him. For you? I asked. A pause. Then, for you. I studied his face, searching for something. Control. Ownership. The same quiet certainty he had always carried. It was still there. But something else had changed. So had I. This was never about saving me, I said. No, he replied. I nodded once, accepting it. Then I looked back at the room, at the chaos unraveling, at the empire shifting into something new. Into my hands. Protection without choice is just another form of control. But this was choice. And as the sirens echoed outside and the last of the old power was dragged away, I realized something that settled deep in my bones. No one was going to decide my place again. Not him. Not them. Not anyone. The question is, if someone rewrites your life without asking, but leaves you holding everything in the end, would you call that justice, or just a different kind of cage? I used to think survival meant keeping my head down, staying invisible, doing whatever it took to get through one more night. But now I know the truth. Survival is not about hiding. It is about choosing when to stand, when to fight, and when to take everything that was meant to break you and turn it into power. I was dragged into a war I never asked for, shaped by hands that thought they knew what was best for me. But in the end, I am the one holding the line. I am the one deciding what comes next. So tell me, if you were in my place, would you walk away from this world, or would you take control of it? If this story pulled you in, do not forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice might shape the next story.